Richard Logan to bring us into the next session.
Thank you, Chris.
No worries.
To that, my coffee. Oh, just in case you were sleeping at the back there. Good morning, good afternoon. Yeah. So, yeah, what a fantastic session we had there. We're going to be continuing that theme. We've got some fantastic leaders and experts. I'm going to share some key insights, go deep dive into how we can look at boosting throughput, capacity, connectivity at Mexico ports, and beyond that. Of course, ports and international gateways play such a crucial role in Mexico, in the supply chain, and will be a real determinant in terms of Mexico's ability to capture and maximize the potential of nearshoring opportunities going forward. We have, as I say, a couple of presentations coming up, and I'll get straight into that with our first guest.
Lo que sea que digamos, pero nada más que no. No, pues ahí andamos. Vamos a ver si pega algo. Me dice otro colega. Oye, pues espero que puedan decir algo útil. Me dice, pues yo también, güey.
Please welcome to the stage, Bernardo Tavares.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. My name is Bernardo Taboada. I'm responsible for the logistics planning in Volkswagen Mexico plant in Puebla. I would like to start speaking about some numbers about our two major flows. So the first one is the inbound flow. So for this year, we are going to move around 10.5 cubic meters. That means more than 100,000 trucks and more than 6,000 sea containers that we receive per year in the plant. So from this volume, important to mention, so 97% come within the NAR region. And most important, so the 96% of our volume that we use to produce our cars come from Mexico. So that's a huge advantage speaking about logistics cost and logistics operations. We still have a challenge with this 3 to 4% that we bring from overseas because it represents a low volume, but in terms of cost, represents even a much higher percentage. So on the other hand, so the outbound flow, so this year we are going to move around 500,000 vehicles. So from this quantity, 65% belongs to the export process. So we export mainly to the NAR region, US and Canada, but we also have some other markets in the rest of the world. And the remaining 35%, we are in charge of the national distribution, not just for the Volkswagen brand. We are also responsible to distribute the cars of the Volkswagen Group, brands like Seat, Cupra, Audi, Porsche, Bentley, among others. So we make the import process and then we distribute until the dealerships network. So I would like to focus this speech into two paths. So I want to tell you what are we doing in order to increase and to make more robust our processes. So of course we are going first from the inside in our processes in Volkswagen de Mexico, and we are going to the outside to our supply chain and transport network. So starting from the inside, of course, as many of you has already spoken, so one of the key topics to success is the people. So the human capital is one of the things that we are focused now to get success in our operations. So we have, speaking about just the logistic area in Volkswagen de Mexico, because it's a huge company, but we have an average of 16 years of experience and seniority. Of course, that gives us stability and process, a stable process and robust, and also can give us the possibility to have this perfect balance between new young talent people and experienced one. Of course, for us it's important to have to give to our people the possibility to have a career path. In these regards, at least in the logistics department, so the last 2 years, so we have changed more than the 20% of the management position, and all of this management position has been taken by our talent pool from the logistics. To support this, we have created some projects for talent development. So we have created this project called Circle of Trust. So this is a project where we sit together at least once a month, all the logistic departments, so all the management of the logistics are there, and also all the talent pool, with the idea to work together in projects, cross-departmental projects. And the idea here is to have the personal development, also to prepare the people into a management career path, enlarge the cross-departmental knowledge, and also practice the personal mentoring. All this project, Circle of Trust, is found in several projects. So nowadays we are working in 14 main projects divided in 3 main clusters. So cost reduction, operative stability, and culture. So as you may all know, so we are a very old factory. So we're a 57-year-old factory. This for sure has some advantages, but also some challenges behind, if we compare it with a brand new greenfield factory. Of course, one of the main strengths that we have because of this age of the plant is we have high expertise in our processes. So this, of course, as a result of a long history in our industry, that gives us also robust and stable processes. We have here in Volkswagen Mexico, so this is not a common, as mentioned before from another colleagues, so this automation in the logistics is not a common practice because of the low personal cost. Nevertheless, for 20 years ago, we have a big automation in our warehouses. We have 2 warehouses, the AKL, that is a warehouse for small boxes, and HRL for big boxes. So between these 2 warehouses, we can store up to 75,000 boxes. So that gives us also an advantage in the in-house processes to have really automated processes. And of course, we have a strong supply chain. So a lot of suppliers have settled in the surroundings of the plant. And a very important information or statistics is that 78% of the volume that we bring to build our cars so come from suppliers within the 30 kilometers around the plant. Of course, that gives us possibility to be more flexible, more resilient in our supply chain when disruptions comes. Of course, we have a lot of fields to improve. So we have been discussed during this whole day about artificial intelligence and digitalization. Of course, that is something that we are working on because we want, of course, to have improvement in our processes, to reduce the human error, but most important, to give our people, to give our specialists the tool in order that they can act preventive instead of reactive. So for us, if we know some problems hours before, days is a luxury, then can help us to react better and to try to avoid that we stop the production. So another challenge that we face as a brownfield plant is the infrastructure. So as a brownfield plant, we cannot be always as close to the production as we should. So that means that we need to implement a lot of supermarkets or logistic areas a little bit far away from the production line. And that gives us also increase our handling steps and also our driving distance per part number. That is some challenge that we need to live with. And of course, we need also to work on alternative transports. So for the finished vehicles, we are working to improve the usage of the rail. We're exploring alternatives to distribute the cars within the Mexican country using rail hubs, and we are searching for more projects, and we have starting also to use intermodal to move materials from the US to Mexico in the inbound flow. And of course, one of the challenges is to change our mobile equipment into alternative energies. So lithium batteries or hydrogen, so we are exploring also these options. Unfortunately, so hydrogen is not so, the infrastructure in Mexico is not so well prepared, but we are pretty sure that in the near future, that will be one of the major options. So what are we doing in order to be competitive and attractive also within our organization? So as someone before mentioned, so logistics is not like the fanciest area to work. I always say that it's one of the most ungrateful areas to work, because when you are doing your job well, nobody notices because you are doing it well. But it is what it is, and we need to live with it. But speaking seriously, what we are doing is we are shaping our strategy towards 2030. We have defined the KPIs that we are going to measure and track to set up our improvements. And all these projects are focused on our three major processes, so the inbound, the in-house, or the outbound. Those are some of our main KPIs that we have defined. Of course, we have the cost, so the US dollar per car that we spend, the percentage of JIT parts that these parts are so closest to the plant. We also tracked in the finished vehicles, so the lead times, the delivery times that we are doing for the export process and also to the dealerships in Mexico. We are measuring also the handling steps per part number, because we want to reduce this in order to be more productive. Environmental speaking, we are measuring the kilogram of plastic per car that we are using. Of course, we have a high program to reduce this usage of plastic. And of course, the degree of localization in the NAR region, but most important in Mexico, because that brings us a lot of advantages. And last but not least, the truck utilization. So we are really working hard on this in order to get the trucks as full as possible. Of course, that brings us cost benefits, but also environmental and CO2 emissions. Then to the outside, what are we doing to the outside? Of course, we are working with our transport network, with our complete supply chain, considering all the land transport, rail transport, and also the customs and ports. So we have been facing in the last months a lot of disruptions in the land transport. So we have faced increase of the cost, also an increase of the transit times that impact us in our production. The security on the roads has become a really big problem for us. So in the last months, we have a lot of robberies every week that also impact us in our production and also in the safety and security of our logistic partners. And we have also faced road disturbances because of demonstrations, blockages, reparations, whatever reason you imagine. But what are we doing as a countermeasures to go into that direction? So we are working in a control tower that is basically a tool to go from the supplier until the material gets to the plant, to have the complete overview of the supply chain. In terms of security, so we have been meeting with local authorities and federal authorities to have a common view on the security on the roads and define strategies. We have this year, so over the past year, we have redesigned our NAR inbound transport network. So we have close together with the other brands like Audi, so the plant in Chattanooga, the plant in Silao, to put together all the volumes and also to get synergies there, to get better routes, better pickup modes, and so on. And of course, we have been proactively working with our logistics suppliers to define previously alternative routes in case of some disruptions comes. We are already prepared and know how to react. So on the rail transport, so we have faced, of course, some network and infrastructure issues because we are using some ports without rail connection. That also it's not so good for us. We have also experimented an increase of the transit times, and of course the security on the railroads, the vandalism and the damage has been increasing in the last months. So for that, we have been working during the last year and months, securing our capacity. So with the truck companies and also with the rail companies. So we have signed long-term fixed contracts to assure our capacity. But of course, we have also a seasonality that we are trying to cover with flexible contracts that can provide us in these season peaks the coverage of the capacity. So we are working also, speaking about finished vehicles, in a project together with Acipona and the rail companies to have a lighting project in our facilities in the plant, but also in the Veracruz port, That is in order to increase our operations on the third shift and be more effective there. We are doing also in our planning teams feasibility studies to search for new options to bring materials like short sea, increase the usage of the rail. And of course, we are also working together with our rail companies to try to mitigate the vandalism and damages. So in the customs and ports, so we have been facing also congestion at the ports because of several reasons. So an increase of the demand on the ports, but also because of the weather, as mentioned before. We have also faced some blockages from Veracruz to Puebla on the railroads because of demonstrations, reparations, and so on. And of course, so the port regulation, that is something that we face every year now to comply with the dwell times, and also new regulations and documentation that we need to comply on. As a countermeasures, of course, we work together with our partners, so inside of the port and all of the suppliers that work with us. So we have opened also because of the lack of land transport that was 1 year ago was a crisis, and we cannot send as much cars as we wanted by rail. We have opened a Tuxpan port for finished vehicles as a release valve, and we keep using it to be more flexible to react in case that some type of transport doesn't work as planned. Of course, as mentioned before, assuring the capacities. And this is one thing that has helped us a lot during past years. So we have been in cooperation with ASIPONA and port authorities. We can be using the public spaces to relieve the congestion at the ports, and with that we can achieve our export volumes and also the import ones. We have in the outbound field, in the finished vehicle logistics, we have created a new organizational unit within the NAR region between Volkswagen Mexico, US and Canada to see the problems more as a region, not just from my factory to the border, and then it's a problem from the US guys and then from the Canada guys. So now we are basing our decisions in the total supply chain cost, not just what we pay one or the other. So we are focused more on regional work. And of course, the Volkswagen Group has acquired some additional vessels to assure the capacity of the finished vehicles deliveries. So just to end, so the key to have successful operations is, of course, to have these strong operations inside of our company. As mentioned before, the infrastructure, the human capital, that is one of the most important things if we want to success. Of course, to develop this strategic towards the future, taking advantage of the strong points that we have, and of course, searching for synergies for the companies of the Volkswagen Group. But of course, it's important not to leave aside the commercial relationships we need from the suppliers, from all the supply chain. And of course, we are very convinced that the only way to, or the best way to solve the disruption is working together with open communication, assuring capacities, developing projects to solve the bottlenecks, and the most important thing, long-term partnerships with the suppliers. So we are convinced that the win-win relationship should be there in order to be beneficial for both. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the suppliers that work now with us. No, you play a key role with us, and invite the people, the suppliers that are not working with us still, to join our tenders, to participate. We need from you, from your disruptive ideas, and thank you very much.
That was fantastic. Please take a seat, and I'll invite you back on stage. We'll certainly have some questions, and we'll give the audience an opportunity as well. But a real
Thank you, Richard.
The stage is yours.
Bueno, hoy les voy a hablar de ese último punto de transferencia entre el producto que ustedes manufacturan
manufacture and marine transportation, or the main transport, which is the port. The marine port of Veracruz. Veracruz port is very important because it's the oldest one of the port system, national port system, that currently is made up of 18 federal ports. This port is divided in South Bay, North Bay, which is the new development, Logistic Bay, that I will be speaking further in a moment, and Eco Bay. Veracruz, La Cipona Veracruz, even though it's a company, a government company, has been concerned about being up to date in all these processes, in all these different trends and international regulations that will become part of the present and the near future. That is why we have 6 certifications. Among them, we have the 22,000 and 14,000 about environment, among many others. Veracruz also has 7 positions, as you can see in these pictures, for the car vehicles, or which is the most versatile port for the automotive industry. So this is in the South Bay. The North Bay, it's a development that we accomplished through this previous planning and construction. So the other ports are just beginning to think about growing, and Veracruz already did this homework over 3 years ago. So this allowed us to not be overpopulated about the positions for landing, for docking. Clearly, it's true that there were some issues, especially very acute ones last year with the capacities. Capacities, as you are well aware of, are divided in 2 parts. What is the static capacity, which are like the boxes of an average car that takes the port, and the dynamic capacity that stands in the logistic operators, which is how many rounds you can go in a month to the same inventory. So, Cipona Veracruz, the port of Veracruz, has started in operation this new area that supports close to 11,000 finished units. This how improve the static capacity, but also brings this responsibility of the logistics operators to turn this inventory faster. But it's ideal, we believe that it's 7 days. And the vehicle that came from import needs to leave, or if exporting, well, 10-day stops, and it needs to be shipped. If we do not do these turns with this life opportunity, there will not be enough surface that will be enough. I mean, no land will be enough. So right now we're with timing, different brands, scores that go from 5, but also to 15 days, which is not healthy either for the vehicle, because Veracruz has all these great things, but also it's a port that has this affectation by the environment very highlighted, and having a car in there could affect the car itself in the low parts and some steel parts. That's why installations like CC Group are really appropriate if the customer might require to keep their cars longer time in there. So in this graph, we see that the Veracruz port, mostly it's exporting. You can see that on the blue, that importing vehicles. Well, this means that these are cars manufactured in the Mexican Republic. And therefore, we provide support with rates to the exportation of cars. So these are the influencing area into the inside and the outside of the Veracruz port. Currently, we have railroads through Mex and Ferrosur, and Canadian Pacific, Kansas City Railroad. So we have 2 railroad lines coming in and out from the port, which makes this very attractive.
This is the interoceanic corridor that connects Salina Cruz with Coatzacoalcos. But as you can watch on the image, it can also connect with Veracruz. This railroad infrastructure already exists. It's an existent infrastructure, it's not a plan. So, in this way, if there's a load that is destined for the Mexican Pacific that wants to go through the Republic to go to the east of the United States, they can do it through this corridor. There are certain entrepreneurs that have approached to have more knowledge and to know into detail these operations, where we also have a connection with the interoceanic corridor. These are the areas that we talked about that exist in the port of Veracruz, and the ones that have been placed in operations in order to resolve the problems that happened last year and 2 years ago, where we had bottlenecks. What is the job of the port? To create infrastructure. And also, we are making efforts to lower tariffs, specifically in the automotive industry. We saw that there was another port that did this. So, as Eddie said, we're setting the line, and that will benefit you because we are helping an important industry, which is the automotive industry, that it creates a lot of jobs. For our measure, it's 700 units per hectare. An hectare is 2.5 acres. And the ideal rotation is 3 rounds each month. So with this capacity, this static capacity, we are able to do a dynamic of 1,600,000 units each year if the cars are rotating in a month 3 times. That means that having an average of 7 days. Our private companies, CSI Group and ALSC Mexico, that are on the Port of Veracruz, along with Acipona, we are having an investment that goes over 1.1 billion Mexican pesos. And this is the best news, which will be one of the biggest customs in Latin America, the maritime custom of the Port of Veracruz, because we're going from 4 stations, 4 gates for importation and 1 gate for exportation, to 17 gates for importation and 4 gates for exportation. This is a greedy project that goes beyond the forecast, the load forecast of the Port of Veracruz, but we like to think big. The first stage will be importation and the second stage will be exportation. Exportation will remain where it is today. We also have an area, the one that you see on white, that it's an opportunity for nearshoring, where we have close to 158 hectares available for the cars that do not go through custom, go to that zone and wait for the main transportation, and for exports that come too early and that have no sense for them to enter the port in order to take space, that need to be used by other cargo that has closer volumes, can stay on that area that it's 4.5 kilometers from the port, and once its vessel arrives, this movement can be made, and it's like an unloading zone that has an access to the railroads. On Veracruz Port, we are making real actions because we know the relevance of the industry. We are focused more on the finished car, yet in our 2 container terminals we are also moving car parts and importation, and in its case, if it's necessary, exportation parts. And I know this is important, but we have to be sensible and appropriate to the needs of this important industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you so much. What a fantastic detailed insight into Puerto Veracruz, Puerto Veracruz, development, investments there, and plans to come. I want to invite my next guest up onto the stage, who plays a company that plays an important part in the Puerto Veracruz ecosystem. So he has served CSI Group more than 20 years. Developing expertise in finished vehicle logistics, VDC administration, warehousing, ports logistics, of course, playing a pivotal role in shaping the company's strategic direction and commercial growth, as well as being a key contributor to the historical development of the Port of Veracruz. I'd like to welcome my next guest speaker to the stage, Antonio Zepeda. Antonio, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon to everyone. I'm going to be very, very brief with my presentation. Actually, we need to go back here. Just would like to start by showing, I think it's not showing the right slide. Okay, so for the Mexican automotive industry, we got 20 plants in our country. If we take a look of the last 5 years, we see certain indicators such as 30% growth in the production of vehicles. So we will finish this year by producing 4 million vehicles. In the case of exports, we have had an increase of almost 30%. So that means an estimated number of 3.4 million vehicles. And in the case of imports, more than 60%, which is about 1 million vehicles. When it comes about domestic sales, we have had almost 60% increase. This year, it's supposed we are supposed to have 1.5 million vehicles to be sold. And just in the sector of electric and hybrid vehicles, this increase will be more than 360%. Okay, so servicing the Mexican finished vehicle logistic chain, we got 4 main ports, which is Veracruz, Lázaro Cárdenas, Altamira, and Mazatlan. There are about 40 storage facilities all over our country, and about 4,000 car haulers. About 4 years ago, used to be around 3,000, so currently 4,000. And just to point out that the 15 main economic corridors total 19,000 kilometers of developed infrastructure connecting coasts and borders. Rail service. There are about 14,000 rail cars for the North America operations. Of all these, around 1,500 are dedicated for the operation of Mexico. Approximately 15,000 kilometers of developed rail tracks are used to support this service. And finally, a few numbers of the Port of Veracruz. Actually, Felipe already mentioned a few of them. In Veracruz, we have a static capacity that can go up to 53,000 vehicles. As he mentioned, it's very important, the rotation of the vehicles in order to take good advantage of this capacity. This capacity back in 2019, it was around 34,000 vehicles. Just by having the parking garage plus the new areas that the Port Authority released, this meant an increase of almost 60% in the static capacity of the port for handling vehicles. There are 2 main rail companies servicing Veracruz, 5 areas to perform the loading and unloading maneuvers for vehicles, almost 7 kilometers of rail tracks for automotive, 7 possible berthing positions, which is a unique condition in the ports of Mexico, 10 shipping lines calling Veracruz, and as well, already Felipe talked about it, the new custom facility which is something very, very important that will allow us to increase the current capacity from 5 lanes to up to 70 lanes. This means an increase of 240%. So as you can see, we have had improvements in the infrastructure and in general in the supply chain in our country. Of course, we have still we have many challenges to face, but if we keep working together in order to become more productive, in order to optimize our processes, we will definitely keep on the right path. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Antonio. Yeah, please do have a seat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some great insights there again. And Bernardo and Felipe, please do come and join us. And we will get into a short discussion. So I also want to engage the audience. So if you do have questions for any of our esteemed guests up here, please do raise your hand. We'll have one of our team run around with a microphone. And yeah, please do engage if you so choose. We'll leave this seat nice for Philippe. But just while we get started, gentlemen, thank you. This time last year, please,
thank you.
This time last year, we were sat here talking about capacity shortages in the extreme, increased bottlenecks, longer delivery times, with manufacturers and providers really feeling the strain when it came to parts and vehicle logistics and efficiency throughout the network. Just want to set the scene a little bit for this short discussion, just in terms of how does this compare to today? And do you have maybe some specific examples where you've seen an improvement, particularly related around the port environment and the topics we've been discussing? Bernardo, I'll come to you first on that.
Yep. So as you mentioned, so last year was so crazy capacity-wise speaking. So we have developed some projects that it was not think in the past, like carrying containers, like Kaisat already mentioned, that are not like the most cost-effective measures. But nevertheless, we have learned a lot of that. So I can tell you that from that experience, that carrying containers, so for example, nowadays, so we are using these carrying containers not for the regular volume, but for example, for exotic markets. So we have found out that so it's cost-effective in this kind of, let's say, not so high volume shipments. So we have learned a lot of that. Of course, this year has been more about stable processes and, of course, cost optimizations. No? So now, at least from Volkswagen, I can tell you that so our capacities are more stable, so the rail is flowing better. So we have also signed some contract there to assure our capacity, and also in terms of, for example, car holders, it's for us is solved, at least for now.
Don't speak too soon.
And for the inbound part, so we have just ended, as mentioned, so our complete inbound art tender that we are expecting to have more or different routes and synergies and recollection modes that can bring us also better efficiencies for the processes.
Yeah, excellent. Antonio, come to you.
Well, I mean, we have definitely had in the improvements. Just to give an example, for instance, for the shuttle movement between the port and the distribution center in Veracruz, last year we were performing 1 round trip per day. Currently, we can perform up to 3 cycles, sometimes less, of course, depending on the condition of the port, but that's a clear improvement in the timing to access the port. Of course, it's very important what the authorities have done. Releasing new spaces is something that has helped a lot. And as well, I would like to point out that in our case, we are investing in new trucks. In the last 11 months, we have received 50 new trucks. By April next year, we will have a 400 trucks fleet, which means a 60% increase in the capacity or on the number of trucks. So, and that's very positive. And of course, as I just mentioned, there are other ports investing, railing companies having more rail cars and other truckers also receiving more trucks.
Yeah, excellent. Felipe, you mentioned some major investments and projects. This requires long-term planning, long-term thinking. So how do you manage this when the market can change so quickly? It's so volatile at this time.
Claro,
It's a really good question. The zones that we use for automobiles today, fortunately, we are filled in the area of the cars, but these areas can also be used for other types of cargoes, like bulk importation or exportation. So it has a double-sized purpose. So these facilities can be used for the finished products and for other goods of foreign trade. When we have the port of Veracruz, and it has different trade styles, you know, the car and automotive industry is important because it's one of our benchmark commerce, but these spaces can also be used for other types of cargoes, and we have made certain combination when factories come and do a little bit of repairing, because sometimes production is not so strong, and then we use it for the berthing positions and the surfaces that we use them for other things, even the warehouses. Another improvement that we are doing with Volkswagen through Bernardo, it's a project in order to work on those stages where the loads are strong and heavy, and for us to be able to unload and verify the quality of the cars the 24 hours of the day, thanks to a lighting technology that Volkswagen is working on with the railroad companies.
Excellent. Coming to you, Bernardo, talking about how the role that Volkswagen and car makers can play in building confidence in the market and with the providers. We had examples from the Port of Veracruz in terms of investment in infrastructure. Antonio mentioned investment in equipment. What role can the car maker play to give that confidence, to invest, to essentially support you?
Yeah, so of course, the investment is a good signal for the market, for the suppliers, and so for all the automotive industry. And I think in Mexico in past years, so there have been a lot of investment, not just from us. So I can tell you that we are about to start a new painting hall that we will have the best technology in the Volkswagen Group. So we are investing also inside our processes. Of course, when the our new projects that will come, we need to be prepared also for the EVs and hybrid productions. So we are working together with our peers in Europe that they are already producing to learn from them how we need to prepare ourselves in terms of infrastructure to be ready when these new projects come.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So the supply chain is becoming increasingly exposed to disruption. That's not a new revelation to anyone. The changes, the multiple crises in parallel at the same time. Just this past year or so, Panama Canal, East Coast port strike, the Red Sea crisis, border closures, customs failure, shutdowns. I could go on, but I won't. What are some of the innovations and measures that you've taken to be able to react a little bit quicker, increase flexibility, and mitigate these unpredictable and unforeseen challenges? Bernardo, perhaps I'll start with you, and then I'll work with the panel.
Yep, so as mentioned before, so we have improved our communication within the region because, so for example, this East Coast disruptions and this bridge that has collapsed has also an impact in our operations because we are very nearby. But when you communicate soon enough, then you can react better and you can also look for another alternatives in order to avoid disturbances into your production and also to the deliveries to the customers. No? And we are also working since last year to be prepared with the alternative capacities. For example, as mentioned, Tuxpan, not to depend on one transport mode, because so the chaos can come from one day to the other. So to be prepared there, and we are working also in order to develop some backup solutions in order that we can react quickly when these kind of disruptions come.
Well, I would say that first of all, we try to keep our minds open in order to, we are constantly analyzing our processes in order to see or detect improvements. We are reinforcing the sense of belonging of our people. The investments in the right time is also very important, and allow me to give an example. I was talking about investment in trucks, but if this investment doesn't come with investment in expanding the facility for maintenance services for these trucks, it's not a complete solution, right? So as well as a CSI group, since we offer services in the plants, we have our own trucks, we have our own concession in the Port of Veracruz, and we have a distribution center in Veracruz that allow us to have the best flexibility. We offer the best flexibility to our commercial partners since we have this scope of service.
Great, thank you. Felipe, I'll come to you. And with the ports being so integral to the North American supply chain and Mexico supply chain, there's proposed legislation to reform workers' rights, the reduction of working hours. How will this have an impact on the ports, on the ports ecosystem, and what steps are being taken to prepare for this, if this reform comes through, to minimize any further congestion or challenge?
Gracias.
Yeah, no doubt. We were just saying about dignifying personnel, taking care of the personnel and training the personnel. And Mexico is one of the countries that has pending task in terms of resting and hours of rest for workers. We do not see with bad eyes this reform. And yet it will definitely have an impact on the work of the port. Today there are 3 shifts on the port, on the morning, on the afternoon, and on the night. And we're thinking, along with the different brands and companies, the creation of a 4th shift, a 4th work shift, in order for the port not to be affected, and so that it can operate 24/7. Customs have even a shorter time, but we are making the necessary adjustments in order to absorb that extra shift. And on the other side, as I said on this presentation, we had certain tariffs that are not going up but are going down. So generally we're looking for a compensation so that the OEMs are not affected at the end on economical terms.
Thank you.
Oh, I mean, we see in a very positive way these reforms. We truly believe that will allow us to increase productivity, avoid burnout of people as well. We are already working in a plan where we are redefining the goals, analyzing the scope of the activities of our colleagues, the best way to communicate these goals or activities to our colleagues. And with all these, we truly believe that we will keep in continuous improvement, and we will get a benefit more than an affectation of this.
Yeah, excellent. And Antonio, probably perhaps sticking with you, you've been handling electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles for a number of years already. Can you give us some understanding of what the EV infrastructure at the Port of Veracruz looks like, and what needs to be scaled up in order to match the trajectory of EV growth for Mexico and the throughput of EVs in Mexico?
Thank you. Well, yeah, in fact, we have been handling electric vehicles for more than 10 years. 3 years ago, we doubled our capacity in the charging stations. Next year, we will install 14 more stations in our facilities. We do have, of course, charging stations in our parking garage, and we have the proper conditions to install more. But as well, we have talked with authorities in which areas of the port we could set up areas, cover areas, and install charging stations. So I don't see any issue in that. I think that in Veracruz, we have the proper infrastructure to face that.
Yeah, excellent. And we're pretty close to time now, and again, you've been a very attentive and well-behaved audience, so thank you for that. It'll soon be time for coffee before we go into our final section. But perhaps one final thought from each of you. Going into 2025, as I say, thinking around the port congestion, the challenges there, the infrastructure, what notes are there to be positive? What are you looking forward to coming in 2025 and beyond, specifically around the streamlining of ports processes, advancements and development and technology? Felipe, I'll come to you first.
Thank you. 2025, próximo año.
Next year, 2025, what we will see, it's a better integration and understanding on the whole production chain and on the whole ports. Now that you mentioned the weather phenomena, we had a really strong mountain slide that blocked a road for us, and then we just communicated with the port of Tuxpan, that is the closest port to us, to see if they could take care of a cargo that came to Veracruz. So those type of strategies that before were not able to be done because we were seeing them as a competitive, as a rival, and now there's a better interaction and comprehension of how it works. I think that this is one of the best strategies that we should apply, and that will make us have a stronger 2025.
Thank you. Antonio?
Well, I think that even since last year, we were establishing with our commercial partners the proper conditions to the following years, meaning we all understood that it was very needed to provide each other visibility on a long-term contracts in order to, on one side, the users feel confident that we will have the infrastructure to attend them, and as well that we will feel confident to make the investment. So I think that it's going to be kind of a stable year. Of course, we never know the new challenges, but considering that we have built the proper conditions, whatever happens, I think we will face it good.
Excellent. Bernardo, bring us home.
Yeah. So for us, it will be more, so as Tonio mentioned, so a consolidation year. Speaking about capacities, we don't expect a lot of turbulences, at least is what we are seeing now. But for us, it's very important so to keep our team, our people very motivated, because if we have the right people on the right positions, then we can face whatever challenge we need to face. So for us, the people is very important, and then we need to be more productive, no? To do more with less resources, IT tools, artificial intelligence, that is the topic of the day.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
Fantastic. A great answer and a great way to finish. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, a round of applause for Bernardo, for Antonio and Felipe. So, thank you very much for your attention now. Please do go get some refreshments, get some coffee, and fuel up for our final session of the day, which will be taking place in half an hour's time. So you have a little bit of time now to network, enjoy each other's company, and come back for our final session, where we'll have the executive president of INA, the Mexican Parts Association, giving a keynote, and we'll have a great panel discussion with other key experts too. So thank you very much, and we'll see you back shortly.